Now, moving on to the next question. This is a more easy break even with less words, let's say. So you're given a little bit of basic information. There's a cost of doing this thing, and all these things run into the costs. Here's the revenue per person, or how much we're going to charge for admission. Here's how many people we think we're going to get, and here's how much it's going to cost us per day. Now, based on that, we can first figure out what our fixed cost was, and that's probably these things here. These are just sunk costs that we're going to have to do whether we have one person coming in or lots of people coming in. And so now we've got our fixed costs. So we already know how much revenue we're going to get right there. And note that we're doing things by day because they want to know how many days they have to operate. So we know the revenue, and you can kind of highlight that formula right there with F2 to see that the revenue per day is going to be the number of people, 350 times how much we charge each person. So 12 times 350 comes to that 42. And we already know, we're given that our average daily costs are going to be 1,500. So we can just add those two up, or actually subtract, excuse me. So we're getting that much revenue per day, less that much cost per day. And there's your 27, which is your contribution margin. So we know where our fixed costs are, right there. We know what our contribution margin is, right there. So we just divide that by that, and we get 18. In other words, we need at least 18 days to break even on this. And again, using a little mini proof formula, you can look at, there's your quantity going up, number of days, 17, 18, 19. Your total revenue is just going to be the revenue per day, which we already figured right there, 42. Revenue per day times 17, 18, 19. So you can see that this goes up a little bit each time. Your fixed cost is always fixed at that level we were given, and your variable cost goes up at how much? Right there, 1,500 per day. So you do the math going across, revenue less fixed, less variable. You can see at 17 days we're still losing money, but at 18 days we turn around and we start making money, just like the formula told us. Now, once you know how to do break even, it's just a matter of reading between the lines for the different examples. Now, in the next one, again, you'll be given all the information in green right there, so you can just fill in the formulas. But I'll show you, we're given all this information about the costs of running a pet adoption place. Now, since we kind of know where we're going, we know what information to start building up. We want to figure out what our revenue is. So we were told from up there, your revenue is you've got that much of an adoption fee. And then there's additional donations. This is a little bit tricky because they're saying 15% of the people give us a donation, and when they do, it's 200. So that doesn't mean everyone, the average is 200. It means of those 15%, they give 200 on average. So we have to do a little bit of math to figure how that averages across everybody. And when you do the math, it comes out to $30 on average across everybody, which is where that 30 comes from. So we could add those two up right there, and that tells us there plus there, that's our average revenue. In other words, we average $255 every time we give a pet out for adoption. Since we're getting used to how to do this, we also lined up what we consider our variable costs, and that would be the vet, because we're told that's the number of visits. Excuse me. The vet's costs are based on the number of visits right there, the 1.2, times the cost per visit. So I'm just going to show you where that number comes from. One thing times the other, that's the 42, and that's where that 42 comes from. The cost of spaying and neutering, we were given that directly. That's right there, the 45. So notice that we're just kind of borrowing information we already had from above. And the cost of food, again, that was a little formula because we were told on average the pets stay there for 10 days, and it cost us 90 cents a day to feed the pet. which comes to $9 on average. So if we looked at those variable costs for each pet, then we just add those up there and there and there, and now we have our variable cost. Now we're getting into familiar territory. We've got a revenue and we've got a variable cost, so we already know that we just get rid of the costs from that revenue, and that gives us the contribution margin. In other words, that's how much we make. We make $1.59 for each pet, but we still haven't covered our fixed costs. And those fixed costs, again, we're told those up here, salaries and stuff like that. So we have all these fixed costs up here, and we're also told somewhere, where is it? Somewhere up there, there we go, donations. Now we get donations which reduce our fixed costs. Remember I said that's one of the best ways to recognize donations is just to reduce the fixed costs, because all the maths are going to work out fine. So that gives us our net fixed costs. We've got a contribution margin and net fixed cost. We just divide one by the other. You can see the formula right there, and that tells us we need to find 590 pets, new owners, to break even. And I'm not just doing this to do it for fun. The mini proof that I do on each one is a kind of a quick thumbnail sketch to make sure that your numbers are right. Or alternatively, you can think of it this way. You've got to do things wrong twice. If these two things, and you've got to do them wrong twice in the exact same way. So given that's not likely, it's kind of a mini proof. Plus, this is a handy little thing to do if you're going to show the results in a graph as well. So same as always, I have the quantity going down here, your total revenue, which is just your quantity right there, times numbers we already have, your revenue per unit right there. So that keeps going up. The more units, or the more pets we adopt out. Our fixed costs are always steady at that 93, which we computed from over here. Our variable costs, we already know that those are going to go up at, what's that, $96 per pet. So 588 times that 96, and that comes to 56,000. So for each quantity, you take your revenue minus your fixed minus your variable, that gives you a profit. And you can see 588, 589, we're not making money, but once we adopt out 590 pets or more, we start making money. And there's that number right there. So that's just a way of proving backwards that we're doing the right math. Now, the last question is kind of a letdown, but it's a simple one. So basically, you've got a tax collector. You're told that the costs of the department are $3,200 or $32,000, that they process 8,000 bills per month, and that took 1,000 hours worth of effort. And what are some of the allocation bases? Well, they kind of gave you two things, one cost and two things, so it's kind of obvious. One would be the cost per bill, and one would be the cost per hour. I'll let you do the math on that one. Good luck.